In today's video, I get my 1989 Toyota pickup that's been off the road for 9 years, running and driving again, and convert it to four-wheel drive. Alright, so what do we got here? We've got I think the guy said it was an 86 Toyota, four-wheel drive, rusty, no title, doesn't run. But it's got fairly low miles on it. I think 110,000 or 105,000, something like that. Oh, we'll take a look here. Oof, that didn't sound good. Ugh. Oh. $113,000. So pretty low miles, 5-speed, four-wheel drive. Now the story on this thing is, a buddy of his had a mechanic shop, and the guy brought this in. They diagnosed it as having a bad head gasket. The valve cover is loose. Here it's not bolted down. The guy was asking pretty reasonable money for this for what it is. And then I threw a breaker bar down on the crankshaft there to see if this engine was stuck, and it was. So I got the guy down even lower yet on his price. And then we ended up tearing up his side yard, getting this thing out of there because it was raining, kind of trying to snow. So everything was wet and the frost is coming out of the ground. So we rutted the place up pretty bad. So then I told him, well, I'll tell you what, you take some more money off of it, I'll swing by with the skid steer and smooth this out when it dries out. And he said okay, so basically about what it would cost to take the old lady out for a nice supper is about what I've got into this truck. Now you're probably asking what the plan is for this, and I'll show you. So over here in the back corner of my shop, stuffed away, been here for a very long time. I've got a 89 Toyota pickup. This was originally a 22 RE, and it's lifted. It looks like it's four-wheel drive, but this is a two-wheel drive truck. I'm not going to say that this truck has a nice body on it because it's got a lot of dents and dings and stuff in it, but it's rust-free, and this truck's got quite a bit of sentimental value to me, which is why it's been sitting here for so long. Rather than getting rid of it, I think, 2011 is when this thing threw a rod through the block, and it had a bad transmission in it. Fourth gear was out in the transmission when it threw a rod. So I've kind of been just wanting to do something with it, not really knowing what. And I'd like to engine swap it. And I'd still like to engine swap it, but you know, that truck's always kind of had a four-wheel drive vibe to it. And so basically I bought this for parts to convert that into a four-wheel drive. I'd really like to get that truck at least moving under its own power again, because that corner of the shop could be so much better utilized if I could move that truck in and out under its own power. Now the plan is just going to be to pull this body straight off of this truck and set that body on this frame. Frame's a little bit scaly on this, but it's not rusted through anywhere I can see. It looks pretty solid. Clean it up, paint it while we got the body off. Throw the other cab on here, and before I take this thing apart, I want to try to see if this engine will run or not. see if I can get it unstuck. So it's already pretty late in the day here today. I'm just going to leave this thing on the trailer for right now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull all these spark plugs out, and I'm going to dump some oil down the cylinders and just let this sit for a while and see if we can get it to bar over. And if it does, I'll try to see if I can get this to run. Being that my goal is still to engine swap it at some point, the engine doesn't need to run well, but if I could at least get that to move under its own power with this engine, that would be a nice thing. So anyway, let's get these spark plugs pulled out, get some oil down the cylinders, and let it soak. So you got all of the plugs out. None of them really, possibly this one, none of them really look like they've, what I'd expect to see on a blown head gasket. Normally the plugs, when an engine runs with blown head gasket, will be perfectly clean if it's burning coolant. All of them have got some black buildup on them. This one plug's the cleanest, but it's more concerning than that is it looks like every single one of these plugs has rust and water on them. So, not too hopeful on this engine, but I mean, from the tiny bit I can see, it doesn't look too bad. But we'll get some oil down them cylinders, and we're gonna leave this for now and come back to it later. Alright, so let's see if we can get any life out of this thing. It's trying. Alright, so let the starter rest a little bit. We'll try her again here. Running. Burning all that diesel fuel out that I dumped down the cylinders to get it freed up. Alright, just set the valve cover back on here. Running it without the valve cover on made quite the mess. Now there's not any coolant in this, so I can't let it run too long here anyway, but doesn't sound like it's quite hitting on all cylinders here quite yet, so might still have some cruddy valves or stuck rings on it. But we're heat cycle it a little bit here, just to run it for 30 seconds at a time here and see if that clears up. Alright, so there it is on the ground here. The brakes are pretty marginal. They're not very good at all. But let's take this thing for a little spin around the yard here and see how it goes. Stick it right there. Okay. Neutral. I gotta remember where the gears are on this. That clutch is right on the floor. I think I might have been in low range 4-wheel drive the entire time there. So this thing's actually running pretty decent here now. Fixed a few vacuum leaks and just let it heat cycle a few times and it's not smoking anymore. It's running pretty decent actually. No coolant in the water so far. So kind of thinking about maybe just road killing this thing together for now, but thought while I'm on late duty here I'd go ahead and get this bed off of here. Probably shouldn't be doing that either, but thought I'd get the bed off and then I can at least start kind of cleaning up the back half of the frame and maybe paint the back half of the frame here. So I got all the body bolts out, everything's disconnected. Fuel filler, there was only one spot weld actually holding that in place. They just chiseled that spot weld out. Put some jacks under it and jacked it up off the frame a little bit and just threw some wood blocks under here. We're going to come in here with the skid steer to actually lift the bed off, and that's what we're going to do here next. Alright, so this is how we've got it rigged. Now, thinking the majority of the weight should be on this strap here. That one should mostly be stabilizing it. See that we've got just got an eye bolt run through a hole in the forks there. And we're going to try to lift this off. Now, some of you guys might mention entering and exiting this machine under the loader arms, and although you would be correct that that would be unsafe, it is mechanically blocked by the cab of the truck. So there is no way for those loader arms to come down on top of me without first landing on the cab of this truck, which means I'm safe to enter and exit this machine. Sometimes the answer is not quite as clear as it seems, but anyway, we're gonna lift this cab off of here and hopefully that goes smoothly. So I did miss two electrical plugs, the neutral safety switch as well as the four-wheel drive indicator. That's why it was kind of hanging up coming off, but other than that, I think everything come off pretty good. It doesn't look like there's any damage to anything, nothing hit, so good deal. Get this ready to drag out of the way here and we'll start digging that one out. Alright, so got this truck drug out of its corner. If this is any indication of how long that's been sitting there. Yeah, it's dusty. But we got to start getting the body pulled off of this. It shouldn't be too bad. The engine that's in here, there's nothing connected to it. It's just sitting in there. So I just got some brake lines and some wiring and some stuff like that. When I was pulling all the stuff out of the back of the bed, I found this is one of its old connecting rods. So yeah, doesn't look much like a connecting rod anymore. But we're going to start getting everything disconnected on the bed first, then we're going to yank the bed off, then we'll yank the cab off. Alright, so I think I've got everything disconnected on the cab now except for the body mounts. And it kind of reminded me of a kind of funny story from when I was about 15 years old. I had this truck when I was 15 years old, and that's why I've still got it now and I've held on to it all this time. And anyway, I remember coming home from the auto parts store with a set of shocks for this truck. And I go out in the backyard and I'm working on it. My dad comes out there a few hours later, and here the truck's sitting about 4 inches higher than it was before. My dad gets this really puzzled look on his face and he's looking at it. He goes, "I thought you were just putting new shocks on it. Why does the truck look so much higher now?" And what I had done is I had made these body lift spacers, and well, the first time I did it they were actually wood blocks, and then replaced them later on with this. It's like a 2-inch pipe with washers welded on the end. And anyway, yeah, he looks at it and he gets this really puzzled look on his face. I thought you were just putting shocks on it. Well, yeah, shocks, body lift, you know, whatever. But anyway, let's get this body unbolted and lift it off of here. Alright, so I've got both of these frames laid out side by side, and this one here, which is the 4-wheel drive frame that we're going to use, is a long bed frame, and that's a short bed truck. Been standing here figuring out where all the differences are and figuring out the best way to shorten this to match that body. Now, all the bed mounts from this one back are the same. All the cab mounts from here forward are the same. If I move this bed mount, I could bolt everything up, but there'd be a 9-inch gap between the cab and the bed, and that would look bad, so we're not going to do that. Some of you guys may ask, well, why don't I swap everything from this frame onto that frame and use the frame that's got the right wheelbase? And that would be an option if this was a solid front axle truck. That would be worth doing. Plus, this one does have a bent frame. It took a hard rear end hit at one point, and this one's got a nice straight frame. That one's a little less rusty, but this one's still solid. And yeah, there's just a lot of variables. I could mind barf on you guys for a couple of hours, but I'll just go ahead and tell you what I come up with. I'm going to cut this body mount off, cut this cross member out, cut this body mount off. I'm going to shorten the frame in here by 9 inches. Then I'm going to weld all this back on, and I'm going to use the short bed fuel tank, and that will make everything work. So first thing I got to do is I got to get that cross member cut out, get this body mount cut out, get that body mount cut out on both sides, and then I can start laying out where I'm going to cut this frame. Alright, so it's all welded back together. Body mounts are all moved, cross members moved. Changed the rear fuel tank support. I'm going to use the 2-wheel drive tank. Everything's all back together here now, welded up. Need to finish cleaning up the frame so I can slap some paint on it here quick. And then I'm going to pull all the brake lines and such off of that truck, put them on this truck, and then just be ready to slap the body on here. Down here at the junkyard, looking for a drive shaft for that Toyota. I need a short box drive shaft. And I found this old 359 back here. Probably not a whole lot left good on this thing anymore. It's pretty well picked over. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. Rolled over. So it's pretty beat here. Looks like 2,000 for the IFTA sticker. So it was at least on the road till then. It's kind of too bad there's not some more usable parts on here. An old white Freightliner cab over. Alright, so finding a driveline for this at the junkyard was a bust. So I went down to the driveline shop, and they quoted me like $700 to build a new shaft because tapered ends here on both ends, so they couldn't just shorten it. And I'm not going to do that either, so I guess I'm just going to shorten this myself. So what I've done here is I drew a line, laid a straight edge from center line of the U-joint to center line of the U-joint. That's for my phasing. And I drew a line, and then I marked out the section that I'm going to cut out, which is 9 inches. So I'm going to cut that out, and then I'll butt this back up together, lining this line up to here. And then we're trying to true it up the best that we can, and hopefully this will work out. And if it don't, I'll be scouring the junkyards online and see if I can find a shaft that'll work. Alright, so the shaft's cut in half. I took a piece of the section that I cut out, and I cut a fair bit out of it and squeezed it down so I could fit it inside of the tube. And then we just got to put this piece on here over that, and then try to true this up the best that we can and then weld it up. Alright, so I've pretty much got it within 5/1000ths now. So we're going to go ahead and weld this up. So now after welding it, possibly as much as 15/1000ths. It's kind of bouncing around on me here, so it's hard to tell. Let's see. It looks like about 12/1000ths. That's still a lot of work. So the truck's all pretty well back together here now. It's running and driving pretty decent actually. I went ahead and put plates on it and drove it home last night and back out here to the shop and changed all the driveline fluids today, greased all the U-joints, found a couple bad U-joints on the front drive shaft, changed them out, and just about getting this thing ready to go out and play in the dirt a little bit. But I gotta do something about that front bumper. S10 front bumper on this thing just does not look good. I gotta get that off. I got this Smittybilt tube bumper here. I'm gonna get that put on there. That's gonna look a lot better. Alright, bumper's on now. It's time to go have some fun. that GoPro. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe down below. Thank you. Have a great day.